They dragged me out of the living room in front of everyone, and my father slapped me so hard that the music actually stopped. My mother screamed that I had embarrassed the family because I refused to hand over my $450,000 condo to my brother as a gift. And while my relatives stood frozen, some even laughing, I remember thinking, they really don't know what I've been building in silence all these years. Before I take you further into this shocking story, make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and share this video, because what happened next will leave you speechless. I'm Mireya, the invisible daughter in my family. They always favored my brother. Every success was his, every failure was mine. I kept quiet, stayed in the background, and pretended to be the weak one. But that night, when they humiliated me at his birthday party, something inside me broke. My parents shouted that I was selfish for keeping the condo I bought with my own money. They said my brother deserved it, more because he was the real pride of the family. Guests whispered, some recorded on their phones, and I stood there shaking, not from fear, but from holding back the secret they had no idea about. Because while they thought I was just an ordinary girl with a modest condo, they had no clue I was sitting on something far bigger, something that would flip their world upside down in ways they never imagined. I left that party with red cheeks and blurry eyes, but also with a calmness nobody expected. My phone kept buzzing. Dozens of missed calls from my mother, angry messages from relatives, and even my brother's smug voice note. Don't make this harder. Just transfer the condo. But here's what they didn't know. While they were celebrating him, I had quietly been running my own online business for 3 years. Every month, I saved and invested without telling anyone. The condo they thought was my biggest achievement, that was just the surface. Behind closed doors, I owned 3 more rental properties and a portfolio my parents couldn't even dream of. So instead of fighting or crying, I started planning. I froze the shared accounts my parents had in my name. I called my lawyer the next morning to make sure all property titles were secured solely under me. And the sweetest move? I blocked every single family member from accessing the trust fund my late grandmother had left, because legally, I was the only beneficiary. By the time they realized what I had done, it was already too late. 2 days after the party, my father stormed into my condo without even knocking. His face was red, veins popping, and he slammed his fist on my table. You think you can humiliate us like that? Give the condo to your brother or you're no longer our daughter. My mother followed, pretending to cry, calling me heartless for not supporting family. But what shocked them was my calm smile. I quietly slid a folder across the table. Inside were the updated property documents, 4 condos, all under my name, with no shared rights. My mother's hands trembled as she flipped page after page. She went pale when she saw the bank statements tucked inside, showing balances that dwarfed my brother's flashy salary. Still, they didn't stop. They tried to play dirty. My father threatened to expose me to relatives, saying I was ungrateful and selfish. My brother sent me another voice note, mocking laughter mixed with insults. He said, "Enjoy your little condo, sis. Don't forget who bought your first bicycle. You'll always owe us." But while they were busy attacking me, they didn't realize I had already pulled the rug from under their feet. I had frozen their emergency account that they secretly used in my name. For years, they relied on that money whenever they got into debt. Credit cards, loans, even my brother's gambling habits. Now, with one signature, I had cut them off completely. And then the phone calls began. First 1, then 3, then 20. My brother's number flashed again and again on my screen, his voice in voicemails turning from arrogant to desperate. "Mireya, you don't understand. I need you. Please, just unlock the account. I'll pay you back." My father left a message too, his tone no longer angry but shaky. "We can fix this. Just meet us." That night, While sipping coffee on my balcony, I watched the city lights and smiled. For the first time in years, the power had shifted. They thought I was weak. They thought they could control me. But in reality, they were the ones trapped. And they didn't even know how deep I had buried the knife yet. Because the biggest twist was still waiting for them, and it was going to happen publicly, right in front of the same relatives who had laughed at me during that party. A week later, my brother invited the entire family again, this time for a victory dinner. He wanted to show off his promotion, his new car, and the expensive watch my parents had bought for him with money they didn't even own. I almost didn't go, but something inside me whispered, "This is the perfect stage." The hall was buzzing with laughter and fake compliments. My brother stood in the center, bragging about how he was carrying the family name with pride. My parents beamed, acting like royalty. And then, as if to stab me once more, my father raised a glass and said, "Unlike certain people here, my son never disappoints us. Some of us only care about condos and money, while others carry the real weight of family honor." The room chuckled. Some guests looked at me with pity, others with smirks. My brother smirked the widest. He leaned closer and whispered, "Just admit it. You'll never be more than a shadow in this family." I stayed silent. I let him talk. I let them laugh. And then, when the waiter served dessert, I slowly stood up. My heels echoed against the marble floor. Every eye turned toward me. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. I simply pulled out a single envelope and placed it on the table. Inside were legal documents, copies of the trust fund my grandmother had left, the same one my parents had been secretly using for years. Only this time, I had proof of every withdrawal they had made behind my back. Gasps filled the room as the papers passed from hand to hand. One uncle muttered, "Wait, this shows Mireya is the sole heir?" My mother's face drained of color. My father stammered something about forgiveness and family unity, but it was too late. The whispers turned into full conversations. People who had mocked me a week ago were now looking at me like I was someone else entirely. And then came the final blow. I took out my phone, connected it to the projector, and displayed the property titles, rental incomes, and my business, growth charts. Slide after slide lit up the room, numbers in 6 and 7 figures. My brother's jaw literally dropped. Someone in the crowd gasped, "She's worth millions." The same relatives who had once laughed at me were now clapping, some even congratulating me right there in front of my parents. My brother's victory dinner had just turned into his funeral of pride. He stood frozen, his face red, his hands shaking. My parents couldn't even lift their heads. But I wasn't done. With the sweetest smile, I leaned forward and said, "This family taught me one thing. You only value money and power. Well, tonight I gave you both, just not in the way you expected." The silence that followed was louder than any scream. The room stayed frozen for almost a full minute. My brother's proud smile had vanished. My father tried to laugh it off, saying, "These numbers don't mean anything. Family is about love, not money." But his voice cracked. Everyone knew. It wasn't love that had driven them. It was greed. Relatives who once called me the weak one now turned on my parents. One aunt said out loud, "You beat your daughter for refusing to hand over her condo? And now she's the one holding everything you ever wanted." Murmurs filled the hall. People shook their heads in disgust. The same crowd that once mocked me now looked at them with pure shame. My mother tried to grab my arm, whispering desperately, "Mireya, please don't do this to us. Just don't say more." Her nails dug into my skin, but I pulled away gently. I looked her in the eye and said, "You did this to yourself the moment you chose my humiliation over my happiness." Then I dropped the final twist. Calmly, I announced that I had already decided to sell the condo they fought so hard for, And the profit wouldn't go to them or my brother, but to a charity for underprivileged girls who never got support from their families. The gasps turned into applause. My brother's head sank into his hands. My father's face went pale. My mother covered her mouth, realizing she had just lost everything she tried to steal. And as the clapping grew louder, I walked toward the door, heels echoing like thunder in the silent shame of my family. I didn't look back. For once, I didn't need to. They had destroyed their own pride, and I had given them the one gift they could never return, the taste of their own medicine. That night, I understood something powerful. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about standing, so tall that those who tried to break you can't even look you in the eye anymore. And trust me, they never did again. After that dinner, nothing in my family was ever the same. The very next morning, news spread like wildfire among relatives, family, friends, and even neighbors. People whispered in shock, "Did you hear? Mireya owns everything. Her parents tried to steal from her, but she outsmarted them." The same mouths that once laughed at me now carried my name with respect. Meanwhile, my brother's promotion was short-lived. Word got back to his office about the gambling debts he had been hiding, and when his manager discovered he was living off money that wasn't his, he was suspended. His brand new car was repossessed within weeks. The same friends who once clung to him for free dinners vanished overnight. He had built his world on borrowed pride, and when it collapsed, there was nothing left to stand on. My parents didn't fare any better. Relatives who once worshipped them now avoided their calls. No more invitations, no more admiration. Their reputation was shredded, not by me, but by their own greed. They went from being the respected elders to being whispered about as the ones who beat their daughter for money. And in our community, that stain never fades. I, on the other hand, didn't stop. My business kept growing. I bought another property, expanded my portfolio, and traveled for the first time without asking anyone's permission. Each milestone was a reminder that silence and hard work are louder than screams and insults. For years they had mocked me, calling me useless, invisible, a burden. But now, every achievement of mine was proof that the invisible daughter had become untouchable. And yet, despite everything, I never once went back to gloat. I didn't need to. Their downfall wasn't in losing money. It was in realizing that the daughter they rejected became the woman they could never control. Every time they tried to call, every message they sent begging for a chance to fix things, I stayed, silent, because sometimes silence is the sharpest revenge of all. Looking back, I understand one thing clearly. You don't always need to fight for your worth. Sometimes you just need to let people underestimate you, while you quietly build a life they can't even imagine. And when the right moment comes, the truth will be louder than any insult, slap, or scream they ever threw your way. That's exactly what happened to me. They beat me in front of everyone, tried to strip me of dignity, tried to rob me of my hard work. But in the end, they lost everything. While I walked away with not just my $450,000 condo, but with power, respect, and peace that no money can ever buy. And maybe that's the biggest twist of all. The girl they once mocked for being weak became the storm that destroyed them.